God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us to do the very best we can with your help and guidance. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please turn and say the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Graver sent word that he would not be able to attend tonight's meeting, so I am filling in for him. So, as always, I ask for your grace and patience with me. We'll begin tonight with Mr. Hedger calling the roll.
Ms. Dukestein.
Present.
Mr. Wald.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Ms. Zorb.
Here.
Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Ms. Blythe.
Here.
Ms. Brunner.
Here.
Council, you have before you tonight's agenda.
Madam President,
Ms. DeWald.
I move to accept the agenda.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood.
I second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Ms. DeWald and a second from Ms. Underwood to accept the agenda. Mr. Hedger, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Dukestein.
Sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Wald.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Blythe.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Council, you have before you the minutes from the September 5th meeting.
I'm going to try this again. Madam President,
Ms. DeWald.
I move to accept the minutes.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor from Ms. DeWald and a second from Ms. Underwood to accept the minutes of the September 5th regular council meeting. Mr. Hedger, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Dukestein.
Yes.
Mr. Wald.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander. Ms.
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Mr. Hedger, do we have any communication this evening?
Madam President, I do have one piece of communication from ICRC stating that they will no longer be sending us a DVD copy of record of the recorded meetings. However, they are providing a cloud base record keeping to store all video there and will be maintained indefinitely. That's all.
Mr. Hedger, does that have like a link or anything with it? How do we get to that?
Yes, I do have the link and I have it saved. I can send it out to council if they'd like.
Do we need to get that posted on the website then?
I do not
Is
believe
that
so.
part work?
I don't believe it needs to be posted because it's done, they have the normal public viewing through the ICRC-TV website, and this is for like backdated records, I believe.
So none of our, so we'll still get to our
Yeah.
videos the same way
Mhm.
we did. It's just about the storage
It's
part.
just the storage of like the hard
Gotcha.
copy CDs, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that confusion. Great. Next on the agenda, I have Mr. Joe Krimmer. I don't see him here.
Mr. Krimmer and I just spoke by phone. He's had a family emergency, will be unable to attend.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next we have council committees. First up, City and Community Development and Recreation.
Hello, everybody.
City Community Development and Recreation had a meeting September 11th at 6:30. We discussed the car show. It was 143 cars registered, and it was a success thanks to Joe Krimmer. There will be thank you letters going out to the sponsors. A few layout changes will have to be made for next year. Fall Festival is October 21st from 1 to 5 p.m., and we are in need of volunteers. Hazardous Waste Household will be rescheduled for a date in November. Some people already requiring and asking about it, so hopefully it'll be successful. And our next meeting will be October 10th on a Tuesday at 6:30. It's on a Tuesday because it'll be Columbus Day, that Monday before. So it'll be on a Tuesday.
Thank you, Ms. Brenner. Any questions? Next, we have Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance met September the 11th. And our first thing on the agenda that we addressed was the West Galbraith Road agreement, which is on should be on our agenda for tonight. And we talked about our county tax update. We also talked about our police and fire grant, that we were awarded it, and we will get it incrementally. We talked about the success of the impound lot. We went over the levy, but we decided to table that conversation because we were not quite ready to have it. We had new and old business and adjourned at 7:58. Our next meeting is October the 9th, 2023, at 7:30.
Are you sure it's the 9th? Because she just said October
It's,
9th is Columbus Day.
Columbus Day, it's
Oh.
that Tuesday.
September the 10th, sorry. I missed that.
October 10th?
Yes, October 10th, that too.
Throw a dart. Any date will do.
There we go.
All right. Do we have-
October the 10th, 2023 at 7:30. Budget and Finance.
Got it. Are there any questions? Next, we have Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Madam President. We have not met yet this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 25th at 6:30 p.m.
And Public Safety.
Thank you, Madam President. Our next scheduled meeting will be September 25th at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. Do we have any ad hoc reports tonight?
Yes. I have the school board meeting that I attended on September the 11th, 2023 at 6:30. So the high school principal gave an update about just the programs that they're enlisting for the students, especially now that they've gone to the 4 days a week and what they can do on those Mondays. It's really interesting. There's a program for Apple. There's a program for some CNA classes like nursing, phlebotomy, those kinds of things. Al Long came and gave an update for the Oats, and he had talked about, I guess he works for Great Oats. He had talked about what some of the programs that are linking over there, and what else did we talk about? They gave a financial report from the accountant. And I don't know if you guys really want to go into that. I didn't actually bring my notes, but I thought the interesting and highlight of that was the talk about the high school, the programs that they're enlisting in, the free lunch that they offer every day for all grades, K through 12, on the Monday that they're out of school, that the students can come and report to the high school lunchroom in order to retrieve lunch if they need to, just to make sure that children are being fed on that day of absence. Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Do you happen to know when their levy is up and if they're,
They
Is there any
don't
discussion?
they're hoping to get a levy on the ballot next year.
Thank you.
Question, Madam President.
Yes.
Did they say anything about any type of new college credit courses or anything like that?
They did. They talked about the college courses that they're adding to every single year for the high school children, where they can have choices and options. So according to their curriculum and what they're required for by state to graduate, if they have extra space in their schedules, they can opt to take some classes that will help them gain college credits. And right now they have, I think, 4 or 6, and it's an even number, and they'll be adding 2 more every year. Well, that is the goal of the high school principal.
Nice.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Sorry.
Okay,
Oh,
we're still there. We're still under that.
sorry, yes.
So at the OKI meeting, I didn't get a whole lot out of it this time. One thing that did intrigue me was the fact that they're entering into a contract with a consultant for professional services for traffic data collection. So it seems to be a thorn in everybody's side. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what they changed, but that was basically the highlight. The rest of it was just legislation and stuff that's amendments to other things. That's it.
Thank you. I apologize. Are there any other ad hoc reports? All right, hearing none, now we'll move on. We'll move on to administrative reports. First up is the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to recap on a couple of things. Ms. Duke-Steens talked about the College Credit Plus classes at the high school. I do believe that some of the kids are leaving. If they get on the right track, they can get credit as early as 9th grade. They started then, so you can really go into your first year of college as a junior, some cases sophomore. So those classes do start as a freshman. So if you can get your kid in that program. Another thing we discussed, I know you said you were tabling it in your committee. I've been looking for the documentation, and what I came across is that we probably need to go back as far as 2013, because the police levy that was renewed in 2018 was just that, a renewal. It had the same language as the one that we just passed. So we need to go back as far as 2013 to look for that. I came out to the cleanup day on Saturday. There weren't as many people who signed up, but Ms. Brunner was there, Mr. Willis. Okay, she's pointing. You were with Ms.
We tag team.
Okay, well, we didn't see you, but
saw
that
you.
doesn't mean anything.
We saw the trash.
Doesn't mean anything. You saw the trash. I had bags I was emptying, and I shouldn't say it out loud, in other people's dumpsters. So I didn't have to come back to get a bag. So it was nice to be out. It was a nice day. So we were looking for more participant turnout, but that's okay. We still got the job done. Oh, and one other thing, the last thing, the CIC meeting has been changed again this month to the 28th. I believe it should have been this Thursday, Ms. Blythe. Okay, it's moved to the 28th,
28th, yes.
At what time?
6:30. So again, Ms. Duke-Steen, I don't mind, I'll look again for that levy.
Thank you.
I believe it should be back with the archive ones.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Next, we have the city administrator.
Good evening, Madam President. We continue to work on the audit, the request from the auditors. I feel like we're wrapping them up, but we still seem to get 1 or 2 questions every day. Nothing like it was a couple of months ago. So hopefully we'll have that wrapped up in the next 30 days or so. The department heads have all submitted their budgets. We have had one initial meeting with the department heads so far. We've got a little bit of work to do in terms of refinement. And then we will have another internal meeting before we get it to council for review at the Finance Committee. And that is my report for tonight.
Madam President,
Ms. Dukestein?
Ms. Iki, can you give us an update on the splash pad?
It has not gone out to bid yet. The construction drawings are completed. We met with the engineer last week just to go over a couple of items that they wanted to call to our attention, but I can check with them and see when they expect that to go out for bid.
So we've moved the date again?
I'd have to check. I think we're about a week off, but that's it.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Next, we have the law director.
Madam President, I do not have a report this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
I don't hear any. Thank you, Mr. Dieters. Finance director is not present. We will now move on to call of members. Ms. Dukestein.
I'm glad the cleanup day went well. I wasn't able to attend. We won a tennis tournament, so I'm happy about that. So, other than that, I'm just here. Thank you all.
Ms. Dewald.
Thank you, I have nothing.
Ms. Underwood.
Thank you. I don't have anything this evening, but congratulations on winning your tennis tournament.
I'm going to follow suit. I have nothing to report tonight either. Ms. Alexander?
I'm going to stop this train
All
right
right.
here.
All right.
Congratulations on the tennis championship. This was my first cleanup day, and me and Miss Blythe tag team Goodman. And like I said, this is I clean up like I would want my space cleaned up. So I'm picking up cigarette butts and little tiny little bits in that, and getting swarmed by bees. But wonderful neighbors came out, spoke to us, thanked us. Met a gentleman named Mr. Boggs. He came out, he was so excited to see us. He came out with water and Mountain Dew and was like, thank you so much. And you know, those moments right there, we were doing it because we wanted to do it, but those moments right there just really did something for us. And we talked for a little bit, we moved on. Then we met Derek, I think his name was Derek from Public Works. He was driving the truck. He volunteered his Saturday as well to come through, and he had drove through a couple times, and he said, "Hey, it's past 12 o'clock. You guys are still here?" We say, "Yeah, we're making our way up to Simpson." Then I said, "Oh, you must be saying that we're taking too long because I'm picking up little bits and stuff." He was like, "Well, yeah, you kind of, you want to pick."
That's why he rode through the lot at 12:45.
Yeah, it was us. He volunteered. He got out the truck and helped us so we can make it up to Simpson. But it was great meeting someone from Public Works, introducing ourselves. We talked about council. We picked up stuff. We had a great conversation, and it was a great day to be out there. It was perfect weather, and got to meet some great people on Goodman Avenue, speak to some of the neighbors, and they really appreciated us getting up on a Saturday and volunteering our time, even though we were past the time. We did it. That's it.
All right, next, Ms. Blythe.
I was at cleanup day, and the best part of it was the weather was really good. And also the 3 to 4 neighbors that actually thanked us and people in cars. And once again, I got to clean my favorite street, Goodman. It's always a challenge. So this is like my 4th year in a row doing Goodman. So I'm hanging tough. Thank you.
Thank you. you. Ms. Brenner.
Thanks, everybody from City Council Administration and the other volunteer that got up, rolled up their sleeves, got out there and cleaned up. And we are in desperate need of volunteers in North College Hill. And the sound of my voice, please volunteer. This is very important. Littering is a problem here. And some of these businesses out here need to be fined. So with that being said, I'm done.
Thank you. Next, we have remarks from the audience. Mr. Hedger, has anyone signed in?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, Diane Williamson has signed in. So if you just approach this podium.
This is my first meeting, everybody. So.
Welcome.
Please
Welcome.
state your name and your address.
Diane Williamson, 7037 Laboido Avenue. My issues are I catch the bus out to work every day, and we are having buses pass up the bus stop on Betts and Galbraith. The trees and bushes are blocking that sign for people. I mean, there's elderly people also catch the bus there, and it's in the buses. Sometimes I have to wait for another bus because they always has passed me up several times. And then as far as cleanup, there's a lot of people that throw stuff in. From Bising to Center Ridge in our yards, where is that little area right there. There's like throwing everything and anything in our yards, and I'm the only one from that little corner there that came to me to spoke up for where I live. And the other thing is on Bising and Hamilton. There's several times I almost got hit by a car because nobody's going to be stopping. If there's, I see downtown and other places that have a big yellow sign up there saying a crosswalk. I mean, those little lights they're not seeing those little lights at all. So, I mean, I was like, if I'm riding my bike or walking across there, I mean, they're like in like inches away of blocking me, so I'm almost getting hit and stuff like that. So that's what I came to address. So if anybody has any questions for me, just let me know.
Madam President,
Madam President, I'll defer.
Ms. Blythe?
can you repeat where the trees are blocking the bus stop? That way they can write that
Galbraith
down.
and Betts, right there in front of two guys in the garage.
Okay.
Right there at Galbraith and also Laboido.
That way they can
With
make.
by St. Margaret Mary Church and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, the one coming this way and the one going that way. The trees are and the bushes are. There's a couple times I tripped getting off the bus also, and I don't want the elderly people to get hurt as they take the bus also. So that's what my concerns were.
Okay,
So you
thank
are talking about the Galbraith side, not necessarily.
Not the Betts side. It's just on the Galbraith side. Signs are like right underneath the tree and everything. There's like bushes right around there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam
Ms.
President.
Underwood?
So you mentioned that traffic was bad on one of those streets. What street was that?
Bising and Hamilton.
You're talking about the clean, as far as, Hamilton and Betts. I mean, yeah, Hamilton and Bising, I'm sorry.
On Hamilton or on
Yes,
Bising?
right there. When I'm crossing over where you guys have that walk sign, that flashing light, I'm like really like 2 feet out, and my lights are flashing, but they just fly through. I had to jump out of the way so I wouldn't get hit. And there's other people that have done the same thing. There's like parents with their kids, they almost got hit. I mean, I walked with them and stuff like that. So if you guys had any ideas on how we can make it more visible for the drivers, and stuff. And then another issue, I forgot, there's another issue from Bising to Center Ridge. We have people constantly driving through there, like maybe going too fast and hit the parked cars on that street. I don't know what we could do about that, but I mean, I know there's you guys got speed bumps on Bising and other places, and they were like, and like I said, my address is 7037, and it's mainly right in there is when they've been hitting cars and things like that, if there's a way that we could try to slow them down.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of kids that, in that little stretch, that there's a lot of kids right in that area, and I don't want them to get hit. And plus, I have 2 Chihuahuas, I don't want my dogs to get hit either, so, but those are the concerns I have.
We are working on those issues.
Okay.
More to follow.
Okay.
Madam President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I was gonna say, on the, Betts and Galbraith, where the bus stop is,
Yes, ma'am.
I actually did notice that the trees are slightly overgrown. I will say that, and I'm gonna take definite efficacy into what you're saying. In fact, I'm gonna offer to call sorta for you, because the bus drivers actually know where they're supposed to stop. So are you saying that the trees,
Are blocking that sign that they have in.
they're blocking the sign, but are they blocking the people?
Well, I mean, because 2 Guys in the Garage, his driveway's right there, and that tax place is right there, and sometimes they have to go past the light just to stop. But it's like, like I said, I'm standing right exactly at the bus stop, and they just like drove through the light and didn't recognize that I was there.
So I know that sorta has a little kind of like our GPS system
Okay.
where their bus stops are preloaded, so they know that the stop is there. Although our trees are slightly covering it, I would say that they're just overgrown, they don't look outrageous. They're just, those are metro signs, and we're not necessarily responsible for making their signs visible. I don't know. I mean, the trees are not overgrown, is what I would say, but it is covering the sign like halfway. So I think we should approach it. I can't tell the manager how to handle her part of it, but I will definitely call sorta.
And when the bus is
remind
on the
them.
bottom, the bushes on the bottom is where I
Yes.
see people with, trying to get on the bus and they trip because there's bushes underneath it as well. And sometimes I trip and fall, but I'm 56, an older person older than me. Sometimes I see them trying to catch them before they fall and stuff like that because I walk past there all the time. So
I don't know if you want to, I can follow up with you once I call, because I will do that for you.
No problem.
Call sorta and just remind them that people are
problem at all.
getting left at that bus stop, or maybe not stopping as where they need to. That's just letting them know.
Okay.
And then on the Bising and Hamilton, is there a stop sign there that people are not stopping at?
No, what it is a flashing yellow light.
Oh, got it.
It's a flashing yellow light with this like little lights.
Not yielding to the pedestrian.
Yeah, the pedestrian sidewalk, yes.
Okay, got it. So, I'm not sure if you want to follow up with me, you can leave your information, I'll follow up with you. I'll make sure that I call on that tomorrow.
problem.
Because I definitely understand that, but they do have a preloaded schedule, or like a stop loader where they're supposed to stop, whether they can see the sign or not. So, I'll do that part for you, and then I'll let Miss Iki take care of whatever else we need to do on the city's part.
No problem at all. And as far as cleanup days, I'll give my permission to whoever I need to, but I would like to volunteer for that as well.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, because
And
I
be-
live
and
on
between
Center
my work-
Ridge, so I know exactly what you're talking about, because I live on Center Ridge, and yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah. We see people like sometimes, go through the stop signs and all that, too, so. But just, I'll leave my name and information with her after the meeting, and let me know when the next cleanup day is, and I'll try to help them.
If you don't want to stay for the whole meeting, if you just write it down and slip it to one of them, I'll grab it.
I don't mind staying for the whole meeting.
Okay.
My dad was in council before he passed away. He passed away in 2013. But he was with College Hill. He ran College Hill Town Hall for years, and I helped him with that. So I was like, well, I'll dress what I need to dress. So, does anybody else have any questions for me?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all that it's signed in?
Yes, Madam President.
Thank you. Next, we have legislation. Mr. Hedger?
We have second reading resolution number 2022 of 2023, a resolution to authorize the city administrator to execute a collective bargaining agreement between the city of North College Hill and the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, Inc.
Madam President,
Ms. Dewald?
this has been through 2 committees. I'd like to move to suspend the third reading on Resolution 2223.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Are there any questions? Mr. Hedger, I have a motion on the floor to suspend the third reading from Ms. Dewald and a second from Ms. Underwood. Could you please call the roll?
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Madam President,
Ms. Dewald?
I move to adopt Resolution 22, 2023.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, we have a motion on the floor from Ms. Dewald and a second from Ms. Underwood to adopt resolution number 22, 2023. Could you please call the roll?
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next ordinance, we have Mr. Hedger.
First reading ordinance 13, 2023, an ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of North College Hill and the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners relative to the improvements of West Galbraith Road and declaring an emergency.
Madam President.
Ms. Dewald?
Ms. Hickey, with this emergency on here, do you need this passed right away?
I do not, but this is the MRF funds, the municipal road funds, that once we get it passed and invoice the county, it's not the reimbursement grant, so we get the money up front for this.
So it would be beneficial to try to suspend at this time, or no?
It would if council would like to do that.
Madam President,
Ms. Dewald?
I'd like to suspend second and third readings on the ordinance 13, 2023.
Is that a motion? You just said you'd like to, but is that a
Oh, that's a motion. I move. I so move.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Any questions?
Madam President, I have a question. Ms. Icky, what exactly is this ordinance about?
This is for the Galbraith Road improvement project that has been underway and in the works, I think, for a couple of years now. So these are additional funds that we got besides the SORTA grant to help pay for the design and engineering costs.
Oh, okay.
Madam President,
Ms. Blythe?
Ms. Siki, would these funds be also allowed to use speed humps or traffic calming on Galbraith, or is this strictly paving?
Design and engineering only.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hedger, could you please call the roll on the suspension of second and third reading? Motion was made from Ms. Dewald, and the second was from Ms. Underwood.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Madam President, I know you're writing.
Yep. Okay, please. Yes, Ms. Stewart.
I move to adopt ordinance 13, 2023.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Mr. Hedger, I have a motion on the floor from Ms. Dewald and a second from Ms. Underwood to adopt ordinance 13, 2023. Could you please call the roll?
Ms. Dukestein?
Yes.
Mr. Walden?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Blythe?
Yes.
Ms. Brunner?
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
Thank you. Do we have any further remarks from the audience as it pertains to legislation? Old business?
Excuse me, Madam President, did you have a question? No. Okay.
Well, there's
Oh.
one thing I forgot to mention too, is also, from 10 o'clock to midnight, there's kids are walking the streets, they've been past my house like 6 times this week, looking right at my friend's car, and my other, elderly, neighbors was concerned about that, so.
I would like to point out that we did have a police report given back to our, during the public safety meeting, and it says that the police are starting to crack down on curfew violations. So if you would like to call the police when you see them out, I'm sure they'd be delighted to swing by and take care of that.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Do you have the non-emergency number for the police department?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All right, old business.
Madam President.
Ms. Dewald.
Ms. Icky, not putting you on the hot seat. If you don't have an answer, I understand. But Bobolink is supposed to go under some, I understand, some massive reconstruction. Was that to happen this year?
The contract has been awarded, and I didn't bring my file, or I could tell you which contractor got it. But yes, we've had our pre-construction meeting. I believe they're starting the work. I can send you what I have on it if you like.
I'll
but I
just send you
don't
an
have the-
email then.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't have the file with me.
What is this? Oh, it's okay.
Any other old business?
Madam President,
That was a struggle.
I know.
Ms. Underwood.
I know I'm beating a dead horse, and I'll continue to beat it. You know what I'm about to say. Yes. Is there any update on Prospect Place?
I'd have to grab that file as well.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to join me over in the office, I can pull it out real quick after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Zeke, it is in the works, is that true?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know how fast government works. All right, any other old business? Any new business?
Madam President.
Ms. Dukestein?
So, I'm comfortable with what we're doing here in terms of suspending second and third readings. However, in the spirit of what has previously been said, I want to address council and their consciousness on when we suspend and when we don't. Are we suspending because, and it's okay if we're changing the mode of this, but I want to just bring awareness to previous thoughts that have been said by council members. We're not pushing things through if they don't need to be pushed through. If you guys are changing that, that's fine. I'm actually all for making sure some of those more mundane things that don't need to have 2 and 3 readings, especially if they have been in committees, and we've heard them and know what the ins and outs are. But many of you have voiced that we need to be a stickler to sending them through that process, but I feel like we're not doing that as much here recently. And so I just want to kind of bring awareness to that and maybe we can move that thought to a committee to talk about that, because it's definitely taken a huge shift to what it used to be. And we've had issues that needed to be passed that people stood firm on at 2 or 3 readings. And now we're pushing things through readily. So it's just something we need to be aware of, we need to address, and we need to have a consciousness when we're voting to make sure. I've always been on the side of unnecessary, not necessarily dragging things out. So personally, my personal stance hasn't changed, and I do take into consideration when those legislations have been, or ordinances have been, legislation to come have been in committees. However, I don't want us to lose our consciousness of making sure that we're pushing things through and not just, we need to have a certain level of consciousness is all I will say. So I don't know if you guys want to move it to a further discussion in one of the committees, or if you're fine with it, but I have definitely noticed the shift.
Madam
President.
I think I heard Miss Underwood.
Hey, pick me.
I think I put the.
So,
2 rock, paper, scissors.
Ms. Dukestein, I would agree with you that I have noticed that. However, what I would say, just about my own opinion about suspending readings, I agree with budget items that you probably shouldn't suspend readings, because I think that is something that's important. But the reason why I didn't, me personally, didn't move to suspend the readings is because I knew I wouldn't have the votes, and I'm not, if I don't have the votes, I don't have the votes. I don't want to do something as an exercise of futility. However, these 2 particular items and some of the other items, I know these actually went through my committee, so I'm familiar with both of these items, but it may not be that. I don't know if it's necessary for us to discuss it in a committee, but obviously if there are concerns, and there are still times when, but what typically happens, even when we don't suspend the readings, if it's something that's time sensitive, we get extra meetings kind of dumped on us. I'm using the word dumped, but I don't mean that in a negative way, but, we get where we have 2 meetings in a 15-minute span, which, sometimes is counterproductive, but it does. I don't know what the answer is. But I don't want to have a whole nother meeting about it. If everybody could just chime in, that would be great. Yay.
Madam President,
Steve-O.
if you're referring to the last 2 meetings, we had tax duplicates that should have been before us long before that last meeting, and they weren't. So they had a first reading. The residents have already been notified 3 times about this tax duplicate, this fine they're going to pay. So sitting here putting it through to a 3rd reading, especially with the amount that we had, was a waste of time. So that was the reasoning behind pushing those through. There's really nothing anybody can do. You can't stop it. They've already been notified. If they were going to challenge it, it should have been challenged long before it got to us. Readings tonight, I believe the part-time bargaining, Ms. Icky, is this going to be retroactive because we're not on time with this one for the agreement?
Correct.
So putting
Correct.
that through was only an advantage to the officers because it's only holding their payoff longer, and it's already late. And like Ms. Dukestein said, I'm sorry, Ms. Underwood said, with this second one, authorizing the money, that's for us to receive funds. I don't think there's much to argue about on that. So I am cognizant of what can be pushed through and what needs to have 3 readings.
Fair. Madam President.
May I respond
Mhm.
before you get a second response? So, I mean, it's no big secret that I am usually the holdout. 99% of the time, I'm the holdout that doesn't vote for suspending readings. And it's no secret, if you've watched any of these meetings, that it's me. I don't know that I've had a shift in my philosophy. I would say that I have listened to a couple people provide opinions. Mr. Dieters is one of them. And I guess some of that is, I'm not saying I have a complete shift in my thought process, but there are and will be times when I recognize that a third reading isn't productive for the city. And that I will say is why I have changed some of my philosophy around that.
Madam President, well, if it means that we are moving wiser as a body, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we're cognizant. It's the right thing to do because it has been such a shift. It's the right time. I wasn't actually talking about these two. In fact, one of these came through my committee. It's not about these two on the agenda tonight. It's just an overhaul observation of some legislation that we've had more recently. If there's a shift and you have a personal efficacy to shift, who am I to question that? I just have noticed a shift, and I have come to extra meetings to get things passed. And if we're moving smarter as a body, that's great. I don't have any complaint with that. I typically do vote to move past the readings, as I said, so I'm not necessarily saying we're doing anything wrong. I just wanted to kind of observe, just make note of the observation, and to, make sure we're consciously still moving in the right way. Adversity isn't always bad. I've shared that with you, Ms. Zorb, in the past. Just because you were the one holding out doesn't necessarily mean I disagreed with where you decided to stand. So that was just it.
Madam President,
Ms. Bruner?
Ms. Dukestein, note taking. Note taking.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood?
you weren't always the only holdout. It's okay.
Well, you're absolutely right, because if I was, it would have still passed.
Right.
Madam President, you mentioned what I said, and I probably can't keep my mouth shut. Sorry. I do think how best way to say this is I agree with everything that's been said up there. I think our charter is interesting in that it provides a lot of the authority to council to do a lot of things, right? We have a mayor form of government, but I wouldn't call it a strong mayor form of government. There's still a lot of things council has to prove that that mayor as an administrator doesn't have the right to approve. And certainly major budget items, big initiatives, zoning changes, things that are going to impact the daily, everyday life of citizens. I think the spirit of the charter is that those have 3 readings. Like if you were going to change zoning somewhere, or you were going to change something real, like material to the life of the city. I think, Madam President, you mentioned, I think it was maybe the last meeting or the meeting before, I had said something about those things that are more ministerial in nature, like approving contracts that we approve every year to buy salt from the county, or, like a collective bargaining agreement that's gone through committee already. Certainly, I champion what you're doing now to say those things we don't need to do 3 readings. Let's get on with the business and move forward. I would also probably grant, and I was thinking this while you guys were having the discussion, is that I'm going to say this. I think part of this is the credit to Ms. Icky, that I feel council has a lot more just working knowledge of what's happening now before you come into meetings. I can tell just by the difference of the questions that are asked and how the questions are asked. So maybe that's that you feel better informed. Maybe it's that you have more confidence in things that are being in front of you. I don't know, but I certainly would say that I agree with Ms. Dukestein that I think that that's probably the appropriate way to go for those just everyday things that have to happen that are in front of you. Otherwise, we end up having 5 meetings a month, and when we don't need to do that sometimes. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for whatever it's worth. So,
Madam President,
Ms. Alexander?
I just took what Ms. Dukestein said as an FYI, and I think it's always good to, if someone notices something, to, bring it to light, whether you agree or not. So I took it as not necessarily pointing to either tonight's agenda or even last month's agenda. And I think that's important that all of us have a voice. And if someone notices something, just to bring it out, just for us all to reflect, because sometimes things just, go over and people just go with the flow. That's it.
Madam President, I do want to add too that, and you're very well aware of this, that if you're not comfortable with suspending something, you always have the voice to say no. I mean, either answer is acceptable.
Madam President.
And that, I just want to point out, that is our ultimate responsibility, is we all have the right to say no.
Right.
We all have the vote, and that's why we're up here,
Right.
to take that vote. Ms. Underwood?
I will just say that I am going to give some of the credit to Ms. Icky because we seem to get along better with you. It probably won't always be thus, but I guess we're still in our honeymoon phase, so we'll take that.
And I certainly appreciate that. And I committed, when I took this position, to strengthen the communications between administration and council, and I take that very seriously. So you probably, I know you get a lot of email from me, but I do try to keep you apprised and abreast of what is going on so that you're aware. Because, you could be at Kroger and somebody stops you, or somebody, stops you on the street. I mean, I understand how it is, and you'd like to know and have the answers, or know where you could get them. I don't always have all the answers top of mind, but I will certainly find them for you.
Right.
But I do appreciate the kind words.
And we have noticed that, so we appreciate you, too.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
not obsessed with you yet, but we're getting there.
All right, I think we've, there's a member that hasn't spoken yet, if you wish to. Otherwise, I think we need to end this.
No comment
Conversation.
at this time.
Perfect, thank you. All right, any other new business?
Madam President,
Ms. Dewald, please.
hearing no new business, I move to adjourn.
Madam President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
Mr. Hedger, I have a motion on the floor from Ms. Dewald and a second from Ms. Underwood to adjourn tonight's meeting. Please call the roll.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Mr. Wall,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
Ms. Sword,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Brenner.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned at 7:54.